Shooting is a transfer of power from the legs and gluteus to the shooting wrist in the most efficient manner possible. In other words, it should be one motion with little wasted movement. Footwork is the base for every great shooter. We teach kids to always catch the ball in their shooting feet. This way they will always be squared up to the basket ready to shoot. The shooting foot is on the same side as the shooting hand and should be slightly ahead of the guide foot. On the catch, we teach a jump stop where both feet hit the ground simultaneously as opposed to the 1-2 step method. The jump stop produces a quicker release in rhythm and does not establish a pivot foot, which allows a player to attack equally both ways off the dribble. Here, Emily has a slight 1-2 step which establishes her left foot as her pivot foot. Just as kids must catch the ball in their shooting feet, they need to catch the ball with their shooting hands. This means the shooting hand is centered with finger pads touching the ball, while the guide on the side helps keep the ball steady in the shooting pocket. Fingers on the guide hand should be pointing straight up when the ball is preparing to shoot, keeping it from blocking the shot. The guide hand should stay with the shooting hand until just before the elbow locks and wrist snaps. This will keep the ball aimed all the way to the release. To pull the guide hand away sooner leaves wiggle room for accuracy. At Close the Gate Hoops, we teach one motion shooting because the most efficient way to get from point A to point B is a straight line. Emily is a one motion or A-B shooter. In other words, once she dips the ball to point A, she uses one continuous motion until point B, which is the release. The line from point A to point B is called the launch. Emily does not pause in her launch, which optimizes power and rhythm. Players that pause during their launch experience a power leakage, usually looking herky-jerky, and are considered ABC shooters. A minimal dip is usually necessary to gather momentum into the shot and depends on the accuracy of the passer. Emily has a quick, shallow dip that quickens her release and minimizes her strip zone, the area where shooters can be stripped of the ball on the way up. Longer dips result in a slower release and becomes more strippable. Alignment is crucial to produce accuracy and distance. The line of power refers to a straight line drawn from the toe on the shooting foot to the knee to the hip to the elbow to the wrist to the shoulder. Like a machine, the parts on the line are reliant on the previous part to transfer power generated by leg flexion. Here we see Emily's elbow is slightly outside the line, forcing her wrist slightly inside the line. This means there's a slight power leakage in her shot and could potentially affect her accuracy and distance. In Emily's case, however, she follows through on the line of power, which will bring her accuracy back in line, leaving her to be mostly concerned with distance. Good misses are accurate shots that hit the middle of the front or back rim. Adjustments for good misses include leg flexion and launch angle. An appropriate launch angle is between 45 and 55 degrees. Higher than 55 degrees produces too much arc, causing shots to fall short. Below 45 degrees is too flat, forcing shots to go long. More or less leg flexion could be a factor as well. Emily's launch angle is at the higher end, which gives her excellent arc. More arc makes the basket larger. The follow-through is arguably the most important factor in consistent shooting because it has most to do with accuracy and arc. A proper follow-through locks the shooting elbow and snaps the wrist, aka the cookie jar, at the same time, which finishes the shot with fingers pointing down, giving the ball proper rotation. Rotation gives the shooter a softer touch around the rim, whereas a knuckleball will bounce hard off the rim with no touch. As for arc, the eyes should be below the shooting elbow, which assures a high arcing shot. If a shot is flat, it's most often because the eyes are even with or above the elbow. Lastly, a strong follow-through has good leg extension up on the toes. This ensures all power has been transferred from the legs and gluteus to the shooting wrist. The shooting pole keeps a player centered with good balance. The imaginary pole enters atop the head, runs down through the middle of the body, and locks into the ground between the player's feet. This means a shooter can only go straight down and straight up the pole, not allowing a fade to the left or right, nor forward or backwards. The best shooters go straight down the pole and straight up in one fluid motion, not pausing on the pole. We see Emily does just that, down and up in one continuous motion. The other function of the shooting pole is for alignment. When looking at the shooter, the ball should stay mostly to the right or left of the pole throughout the shot to maintain the line of power. Right side for right-handed shooters, left side for lefties. Here we see Emily slightly to the right of the shooting pole throughout her shot. The shooting pole is most important when on the move. Here we see Emily shooting off the dribble. To see if a player is staying on the pole, we look at where the feet leave and land on the ground. It should be within a half shoe length away from takeoff to landing. Emily fits this criteria. Emily does a nice job preparing on the catch with proper leg flexion from mid-range, approximately 120 degrees. Less leg flexion can generate a quicker release, but it also needs to generate enough power for the shot. From 3-point range, this angle can go as low as 90 to get the necessary power. Her shooting pocket forms a V. A V often creates a catapult effect, resulting in a flat release. However, Emily compensates with an outstanding follow-through with proper arc. Eventually, Emily would benefit from a shooting C, which will offer a higher, quicker release and creates a clear shooting window. Lastly, Emily maintains a steady head with her chin down throughout her shot. This is important for it keeps her eyes on the target without watching the ball in flight. Watching the ball often forces a shooter's head to look up, which can sway shoulders back slightly, leaving the shot short. Emily has very strong shooting mechanics, highlighted by her ball motion, one continuous movement from point A to point B, balance on the shooting pole, and an excellent follow-through. Here are a few suggestions for improvement. Catch the ball by hopping into her shot off 2 feet, which will improve rhythm and offer either pivot foot for the dribble attack. She has a slight power leakage in her line of power where her elbow and wrist are outside the line, which also keeps the ball toward the middle of her body or the shooting pole. Eventually, her shooting pocket should remain to the right side of the shooting pole throughout her shot. As she gets stronger, Emily's shooting pocket should go from a V to a C. A shooting C will give her a higher, quicker release with a better shooting window. A shooting window not only helps a player see the rim better, but helps them become a better passer out of the shooting pocket. It's important to note that when making changes to your shot, the results will always get worse before they get better. In other words, you'll miss a lot. However, during this transformation, it's crucial to focus on proper mechanics and not the results. Now it's time to develop these new habits with practice, practice, and more practice.
Good. Other elbow.